THiNK International coming at you, bringing you the best, brightest, most excellent leaders in their field. I'm Jeff, and today we have with us a world-renowned consultant, conference speaker, incredible leadership architect, author of several books, husband, father, grandfather, pure genius, and all-around great guy, Dr. Sam Chan. How's it going, Dr. Chan?
I can't imagine who you're talking about, man. But thank you very much.
You bet, you bet. Thanks for taking time out of your crazy, hectic schedule to meet and talk with us. We appreciate it.
It's an honor to be with you, and thank you for all that you are doing to equip the kingdom and bring encouragement to so many.
You bet. Now, how long have you been in some form of ministry or around the church for? How long?
Next week I'll turn 58. So 58 plus 9 months. I was born in a pastor's
Wow.
I was born in a pastor's year, so even though I'll be 58, it's almost 59 years.
Wow.
So I was born and raised in a pastor's home. So, that gets you started there. Then I went to Bible college in Atlanta, Georgia. Then I was a youth pastor out in Gresham, Oregon. And then I was a senior pastor out in Hartford, Michigan. And I came back down to Atlanta, Georgia in 1989 to serve as president of what is now known as Beulah Heights University.
My goodness.
And so did that for 15 years. And in 2003, end of 2003, I transitioned fully to do whatever I do now.
Wow. So you've seen all the major shifts and trends in ministry for decades now.
I have, yes. When you say decades, that makes me sound older than I really am. But yes, I've seen it for a long time. Yes, I have.
Yeah. What if you could predict any future trends for culture, society, and even for the church? What would you say is coming up?
Well, I think a polarization of the church is taking place, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but in a good sense. I see the church going all the way from one end of the continuum being fairly formal. I see formality coming back in, liturgy, more of the hymns coming back, people dressing up, just the decor of the church from one end to the other end where, things are loosening more and more, and contemporary really is outdated. That word went out a long ago.
Yeah.
And dressing down to whatever people are dressing down to, and the style of music being much more eclectic and much more diversified. So I'm seeing a real divergence in the church, and neither one of them is good or bad. It's simply how it is.
Right.
And so what I want to say to people, in fact, I wrote a whole book about it called Futuring, Leading the Church into Tomorrow.
Okay.
And it's available everywhere, but Futuring, Leading the Church into Tomorrow, in which I talk about 44 specific things that are changing about the church. But here's the challenge. The challenge is that people fall in love with the delivery system rather than the product. So the product is loving Jesus, worshiping God, bringing others to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, evangelizing, growing people, developing leaders, helping people's quality of life be better, stronger marriages, healthier children, good education. Those are our products.
Right.
How we deliver them have continued to change. And unfortunately, right now, the church is being defined more by delivery systems than the content or the product itself.
Wow.
So when we say, that's a contemporary church, well, my question is, what makes it contemporary?
Right.
Jesus the same, Bible the same, is salvation the same, is heaven hell the same? Yeah, so what makes it contemporary? Well, contemporary basically start to mean, how we did our music. Praise and worship defines the church more than anything else.
Right.
And I'm just using that for example to say that right now the church is being more defined by how we do things rather than what and why we are doing it. Wow.
So would you suggest for those that are trying to stay ahead of the game, ahead of the culture, because it tends that the church kind of falls behind where the rest of the world is going and then always is playing catch up. Would you suggest that they move kind of more into just really focusing on like you say, the product of what's going on, or?
Well, I think they got to do both. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and. So if I was pastoring today, what I would be doing is, heaven forbid, but if I was, I've done my time, okay? So God said,
you put your time in.
Yeah, my time is over. So what I would say, if I was pastoring today, probably every 3 to 4 years, I would go into the community and ask them one question. I'd say, where do you see this area being 5 years from now? So I would meet with high school principals and say, where do you think education is going 5 years from now? I'd meet with the police department and say, where do you think, not crime, but public service is going 5 years from now? I'd meet with the politician, the mayor of my city, saying, where do you think 5 years from now? I'd meet with building developers, residential.
Wow.
I want to know who's moving in, who's moving out. For example, in my book, I talk about that before a school opens, so people see a school opening in the neighborhood, and before school opens, they have been planning, zoning, building for 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
Well, the question becomes, why did they build a middle school and not an elementary school? Or why did they build an elementary school, not a high school?
Right.
Because somebody has gone ahead of the curve and said, in this neighborhood, and the surrounding area, we will have more middle schoolers than we will have elementary or high school. Same information is available to the church. We just don't go to City Hall. We don't go to our universities that do demographic studies. We don't know if they're building houses or apartments, for example.
Right.
Nothing wrong. I've lived in apartments. Everyone listening to me right now started somewhere.
Right.
And so if you're going to have apartment dwellers, that means you might have a transient demographic in your church because home buyers usually stay there for a good length of time. And so those questions I have to ask myself as to where I would go into the community and pull all the information together. I would have on my church staff, maybe not a staff, a volunteer group, of 3 to 5 that I would call a futuring team. And a futuring team will always keep bringing me back information as to what is going on. One of them would be technology. Only one of them would be technology. Others would be houses and shopping and, so on and so forth.
Right.
So I have to go out there, figure out what's going to happen in our community, and do what public servants have to do, is to plan now for then.
Right. That's an incredible answer. Now, within our communities now, and I mean across our nation, even really across the world, there's been an economic downturn. And I've talked to some pastors and that are either leading churches or on staff at churches, and they've gone through serious budget cuts. They've had to lay off staff. How are you counseling ministries, pastors, churches, even business leaders through this economic time?
That's a great question. The easy answer is increase income, decrease expenses, and somewhere meet in the middle.
Right.
But people have that kind of common sense. They're doing that all themselves. So, I can't go in there and try to fix their budgetary issues for them. However, what I do say, my counsel to them is, during this time, 2 things are happening. One is you're becoming clearer, and number 2 is you've got to give people something to rally behind. You can't have a bunker mentality in which you just go hide in a bomb shelter somewhere and hope the war is over, and then you emerge after the war, and then you pick up the pieces. You've got to keep people engaged. So in the first one, I say things like scarcity brings clarity. The lesser money you have, the clearer you are what you're about to do. So let me ask you this question. Let's just say you had $500 in your pocket, and you were going to take your wife out for dinner. You can go anywhere, right? For $500, two people,
sure, yeah,
dinner. We're not talking about movie, shopping, hotel. We're just talking about dinner.
Oh wow!
So when you have that much money, you don't have to really think much. You can just go anywhere. You say to a pig baby, anywhere you want to go, we'll go. If you had, well, you're there. But what would happen if you had $10 and you had to go out for dinner with your wife. That's all you had. I've been there lots of times, so I know.
Yeah.
You got $10 in your. Now, all of a sudden, scarcity creates clarity. It tells you immediately where you cannot go, narrows the field down, and you end up at one of the chains somewhere.
Right.
Or you might even say, hey, listen, for $10, I think we can go get a whole chicken. We can get some potatoes. We can get some beans. We can get some rice. We can get some rolls for $10. We can do all of that.
Right.
So scarcity creates clarity. So what happened during the fat years of the church, we built and built. I'm not talking about buildings. I'm talking about programs, and we hired staff, and we got fat and sassy.
Wow.
But now that we don't have what we used to have, now we've got to create clarity, because lesser means I have to realize what I'm going to say yes and what I'm going to say no to. And of course, the second thing is you've got to figure out how to engage your people in ministry. Here's the caveat: outside the four walls of your church.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what happens is right now everyone gets into a survival mode. Well, survival is me, mine, and I. But ministry outside the doors has to go and get engaged with the needs in the community. And when people get engaged with the needs of the community, they're grateful for what they do have.
Yeah.
And God blesses their other concerns that they have for other people. So those are two things I'm saying to churches.
What ministries and programs have you seen right now churches start in this time? Like you said, getting out in your community, or what ministries are you suggesting that they start to meet the needs of their community?
I think all they have to do is to check with the police department, say, what are the needs of the community? They've got to stop by City Hall and say, what are the needs of the community? They've got to stop by the schools, because schools sees children. Children come from homes. They see kids that would be dressed well, not dressed well now. Kids that used to come well rested are not sleeping well. Kids that used to be happy are depressed now.
Wow.
So they will tell you what the needs are. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure all this out. You have to ask questions of people who stay in touch with it. Stop by the social services office, and say, what can we do? So as people are coming in all day long, filling out their unemployment benefits, what would we like if each one leaving would get a care package of some nature? And something, it might just be enough to do them 1 day or 2 days at the maximum. But wow, they at least leaves with some encouragement.
Yeah.
So it is about sowing into other people's lives. Anytime I can take my eyes off my misery and focus it on the needs around me, I'm a better man.
That's great.